This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Man, I got an exciting interview and some great information coming up. So happy to have you back here with us on Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. Well, right now on the phone, I have not only a world-class comic ventriloquist who's been doing private and corporate shows for a number of years, but he's also the director of the ventriloquial convention. It's called the Vent Convention. It's being held in Cincinnati in July. But let's get the information straight from the horse's mouth. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the one and only Al Getler.
Well, wow, Scott, I am honored by that, humbled by that applause. Thank you so much.
Well, good
Appreciate
to have
it.
you on the show. We've both been talking for a while now. You got a great event coming up. We want to talk about that. And once again, folks, in mid-July, ventriloquist convention in Cincinnati that's going to be amazing. You can't wait to hear who's going to be there. But let's learn a little bit about you, Al. Sure. When did you get started as a ventriloquist?
So, I grew up in the New York City area, Scott, so every day after school, there were after-school shows with Chuck McCann and guys like that who had ventriloquists on. Mike Douglas, the old talk show.
Oh, yeah.
I used to watch that and see Jimmy Nelson and Paul Winchell and Sherry Lewis and, all and Edgar Berg and all the ventriloquists, from the 1960s, 70s, Willie Tyler. All these folks were on talk shows and in the afternoon. And my brother, who's older than me, kind of observed me how much I loved the ventriloquist and how much I also loved Ralph the Dog and Jim Henson's my first television appearance on the Jimmy Dean Show, and bought me a dummy for Christmas. Bought me a dummy for Christmas in 1969, same year, by the way, the Mets won the World Series. I don't know why I had to add that in, but I think
Once
and
it's
only. Important. Oh, please. And since then, I've been suffering ever since, right? But that being said, it just was an art that I loved. Fast forward to when I was 12, my old man took me to a firehouse, and I did a show there, and the chief handed me $20, and I went, whoa, there goes the lawnmower. Put that away. I'm going to start doing birthday parties. And
an entrepreneur was born and an artist.
Entrepreneur was born, and I've got on to have just an amazing career of, Las Vegas, Atlantic City, like you said, corporate gigs, all kinds of stuff. Today, I really shoot down the middle, perform at a lot of family-based resorts. Think Dirty Dancing, right? But fast forward to this day, we're fully inclusive resorts, one of my favorite places to play. And then everything else, still corporate fairs, festivals, all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work at the senior centers. And it's so funny because I'm older now. And back, 20, 30 years ago, these senior centers were not places you wanted to visit. It's like people went there to die. Now, I guess because of the baby boomers, I've been to a few of these places with some comics. They're like cruise ships on land. I mean, they're fancy. They got showrooms.
That's it.
There's some amazing opportunities to entertain large groups of people that are still enjoying life. So lots of opportunity, but it all started as a child. And I think it's interesting because ventriloquism, of all the variety arts, really captures kids in a way. And it sounds like it got you. What do you think, kids? You like that? All right, good. Well, it is true that children have a special connection to ventriloquism and magic that they may not have with stand-up comedy and some of the other, tap dance and some of the other art forms. But I think that it's great that back in 1969, you kind of got your start, and it's a really tough art form. Ventriloquism is tried by many and expertly done by few, right?
Well, yeah, but you tapped into something really important. It's an art that really touches the child inside everybody if they just relax and enjoy it. And, you mentioned like a cruise ship on land. So one of my favorite places in the Poconos that I play is a place called Woodlock Resort, and it's a 750-seat theater. On a Friday and Saturday night, it is full, and I've got the full spectrum audience, from grandparents that have been coming to this resort for many, many years, who have their kids, their grandkids, and the grandkids are college kids and teenagers and even small kids. But at the end of the show, Scott, I do this thing where I call it puppet mouth photos. And people come up with their cell phones and they take pictures with me and the family. First they smile, then they do puppet mouth, right? I got to tell you, but my line can last up to 45 minutes long. Now, who in the heck is going to stand in line and take a picture with a ventriloquist for 45 minutes? But that's what they do, because it taps into everybody's childlike love and fantasy of just the comedy and the fun of it all. And I am honored by the fact that the audiences will do that. And I've got over 1,000 photos of families that do that. Incredible.
That is incredible, Al. Congratulations. And what that means is that not only those thousands, but I'm sure tens of thousands have been touched by your talent, your entertainment, your humor, and ventriloquism, using a ventriloquial figure, we never call them dummies, is such a great way to help people escape. I mean, one of the reasons I'm in comedy is that and I used to own a chain of clubs, as all my listeners knows. It helps people not think about their bills, not worry about anything, just forget and enjoy the moment. And I think ventriloquism, especially for kids, but I think, as you said, kids of all ages find that escapism and that entertainment, that inner joy that is brought on by having two people, basically a character and the artist, entertaining them. Now, you ended up doing and still do a lot of corporate work. Was that a big adjustment?
No, it's really funny. The way I even got into, like I mentioned to you, as a young guy, I was doing birthday parties well into my 20s. And one day I'm in a very large, let's call it a mansion in Alpine, New Jersey. Eddie Murphy lived there. Stevie Wonder lived there. Big, it's outside New York City, right? I do the show. A guy walks up to me and goes, look, the adults are laughing as much as, more so than the kids even are, because they're getting the jokes that you're shooting their way. Would you come back in a few weeks and do my wife's 40th birthday party? And when that happened, I went, oh, and I killed it. I just absolutely killed it. So I started looking more towards.
I'm going to interrupt, Al. I'm assuming the comedy material has to be a little different, or not?
Very much so. What I do is when I do a corporate gig and I do adults, and I'll talk about comedy clubs in a minute. I do a lot of research. I want to find out about Scott. What's he like? What are his hobbies? What are some of the things that happen that are kind of funny about him? What are the idiosyncrasies that people that know about him that are his friends that they laugh about? And then I write a material about the guest of honor, but then about the other guests. Corporate gig, I obviously go after the top rats. It's so funny too, because the person booking the show, from all your experience, books a show once a year. And the first thing they tell me is, hey, whatever you do, please don't go after the CEO, he or she. I don't want you to do that, right? And of course, what I do, they sit the CEO right in the front row. I throw a softball out there, and if I get a good reaction, the handcuffs are off. I have a great time.
And the employees really appreciate that, because
of course,
brings them down to their level. It's everybody in the audience, whether you're the CEO or the janitor, are on one playing field when you're in an audience at a variety art show.
Well, exactly right. And you're a comedy club guy, and the only thing I skipped in over 40 years of show business is I would get phone calls to be a middle and a closer at comedy clubs for people who had seen me at private events or corporate events. And I would say, look, all due respect, man, I'm making a lot of money during the day, and I want to go home at night and get some sleep. And that's exactly what I never got into the comedy club circuit.
Wow.
Just because I was making so much money at private stuff.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Al Getler is the only entertainer I know that lives a day life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I spent over 40. Well, I spent 38 years in the newspaper, media, business, magazines, websites, and today I still am part of a nonprofit organization, Community Heart and Soul, that I'm very proud of. But alongside me is a buddy of mine named Jeff Dunham, who I tease. I taught him everything he knows, which I did not, but it's a good joke. And I say the only difference is He became a millionaire and I became a thousandaire, Scott. So that's...
Well, we're going to get to Jeff in a minute. Before we get to that, I did a little research myself, and I know that your ventriloquial figure is Floyd, your main one.
That's correct.
Now, now, before we get to Floyd, did you try to expand like Dave Strassman and do multiple characters, or were you more like Willie Tyler and kind of stuck with Floyd?
No, Floyd's actually the closer. I start off with a dog that, regardless of the audience, whether they're adults only or their families, the dog comes out and teaches them what ventriloquism is, because one of the things I, never take for granted is we're kind of a lost art sometime, right? But I make fun of myself as a ventriloquist because, let's face it, an adult man is up there talking to a puppet. Let's just admit what it is and have some fun, right? But that sets it up. And then I do a couple of audience participation bits. One is I have two young people up there who I give voices to, and they sing. And then later on in the show, something that's become pretty popular with ventriloquists is using a mask, which people just adore. And Nina Conti from the UK has made it a masterful, almost full part of her act. But it's a feature in my act. And then I have an old lady puppet that comes out who's an old maid but never been married, and she is just kind of the if you call it, what would you say, the feminine side of my personality,
right? I was going to say, sharing your female side. Yeah. But I mean, probably, inspired by Effie Clinker, who is Edgar Bergen's old maid character, so inspiration from that. But then Floyd comes out at the end, and Floyd's kind of the ripper. He's the one that, starts, and I know, again, we're going to talk about two things about hack, right? First of all, stand-ups consider, ventriloquist hack because they're a prop comic, and I just call BS on that, number one. By the way, I have to interrupt. As a producer, I was a huge fan of the variety arts, whether it was juggling, music, ventriloquism, magic, you name it. I had a professional tap dancer in my clubs. Whatever it is, as long as it's entertaining, it's good for the audience. And comics are just jealous that ventriloquists have a tool, but it's still entertaining the audience. There's nothing wrong with using a tool. In fact, some of the most famous comics are prop comics.
That's exactly right. And even though I've been called a tool, I'm telling you that it is really a wonderful art. I just think the fact that you can get up there and have some fun. But then, of course, the other thing that I hear comedians say is that crowd work is hack, right? Which, again, I'm going to agree with you. The reason why some comics say it is because it's scary, and a lot of them aren't necessarily great at it, But, like I've seen everybody from Paula Poundstone to George Carlin talk to the audience. And so Floyd's job is just to rap with the audience for a little bit, and the biggest challenge that I love about it is, like, can I come up with a joke for every person that I talk to? And it's, to me, my favorite part of the show. It's actually my wife's favorite part of my show, too.
Oh,
she loves to see what I come up with. Yeah.
So cool, and it's so important to have, and it does make it easier to have a friend with you up on stage. Is Floyd there? I might have a question for Floyd. Is he nearby?
I can find out. Hold on one second. Hey, Floyd. Yeah, what do you want? Come here for a second. All right, come on. Come to the phone.
Hey,
Hello? Hello?
Hey,
yeah,
Floyd. Floyd, nice to have you on my podcast. Hey, you've been working with Al for a long time. How's it going? Is he doing okay?
Well, can I just say this? It's kind of a weird deal, dude. I come out, I'm the star of the show, the chicks dig me, it's all about me. And then what happens? He puts me in a suitcase and locks me up, and Scott, between you and me, he lifts my damn head off too, and puts me in there. So, but that seems fair to you, doesn't seem fair to me. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Floyd, you must be finding something positive out of it to spend all these years with Al. And I just wanted to say thanks for coming on the podcast, Floyd. I hear you're a huge, successful entertainer. Keep up the good work.
I am indeed. Where's the camera? I don't see a camera. There's no camera. Huh? There's no camera. What are you talking about? It's a podcast. What? A podcast. The hell is that?
Well,
everybody has it on their phone. Seriously? Yeah. There's no camera. No, he's a podcaster. Okay, I don't know what that means, but Okay. All right. See you later, Scott.
Thanks, Floyd. We'll have to have a whole nother show and explain audio podcast to Floyd. But yeah, if we, we'll have to get you on my video podcast, the Tag Team Talent podcast, and maybe we can share Floyd with the audience. But I do appreciate he had time to come on the show. So Al, let's switch this over to a little bit of marketing. You are the director of it's called the Vent Convention, but it's a ventriloquist convention. It's happening July 15th through the 18th of this year. It happens at the Cincinnati Holiday Inn right there by the airport, so it's real convenient. And you have some amazing talents, everybody from Jim Barber and Don Bryan to Jeff Dunham and Darcy Lynn from America's Got Talent. Even my good friends Jay Johnson and Willie Tyler, who I've worked with for decades, are going to be there. This is a big event. Can you share a little bit with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our 50th anniversary, Scott. And, to me, this family that we have, I have known some of the people from this convention for, probably some of them have been friends longer than a lot of my friends that I see on a day-to-day basis or keep in touch with. I mean, Jay Johnson, just a dear friend. I love him to pieces. A true artist. I keep forgetting he won some kind of an award. Can you remember what it is? I don't know. Tony. He won a Tony Award. That's what it is. Yeah.
Not an Anthony Award.
Can you imagine though? I mean, a ventriloquist won a Tony Award. It's just, to me, it's incredible. Well, Jay will be there. He is a true artist. He teaches what's called
I'm going to interrupt and just let people know, if you don't know Jay Johnson, be sure to look him up. He was one of the stars of a very successful comedy show back in the 70s called Soap. And he is so talented. I used him many, many times at my clubs. But I just wanted to give people a reference. If you don't know these names, Google them, Jay Johnson, you go, oh, that guy. It's like Darcy Lynn. You may not remember the name, but she's a huge star from America's Got Talent. And Willie Tyler and his pal Lester, I mean, they started back in the days of early Chicago blues. They go way back. Oh,
they're Motown, man. I mean, they are absolutely Detroit, Motown. Yeah, and you know what? People ask me about singing ventriloquists. There was a singing ventriloquist that won America's Got Talent.
Terry
Fader. Terry Fader, right. Willie is the OG of singing. I mean, he's got an amazing voice. Interestingly, so does Lester too. But yeah, I mean, he's fabulous. And in fact, we are going to have at this convention Willie Tyler and Darcy Lynn on a panel talking about singing during your ventriloquist act. Can you kind of envision that? You've got this young lady who's just kind of finding her fame, and you've got this guy that has done everything from Laugh-In to the Jeffersons to, McDonald's commercials that played over and over and over again, and everything. I mean, he's been in motion pictures, Willie Tyler. He was just in Adam Sandler's Netflix special that came out this past year.
You want to hear some weird trivia, Al? I did 3 different TV series, and one of them was a 1-hour special for the Fox network. I was the producer-director, but the host of my show was Willie Tyler and Lester.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, he's done it all and is such a pro. So to get people like that and Jeff Dunham up on stage at your convention, along with, literally dozens of other ventriloquists, is really going to make this a fantastic event. Now, is it open to the public or just ventriloquist?
No, I mean, look, anybody that buys a registration can come to the convention, obviously, And you mentioned the website before, vhconvention.com. Yeah, anybody certainly who is, but I would recommend that someone come who has it. If you want to come, have an interest in ventriloquism, at least as a hobbyist, and want to come, because the daytime is filled with seminars and lectures. It's about being a better ventriloquist, and about 90% of the people, Scott, that come to the convention are not going out there and performing for money per se. They may be performing at church or at school or during a fire safety program or just for their family. But the goal for me is, as executive director, is I want everybody to go out there and display the best example of the art possible, And so that is why Jeff shows up year after year after year and supports this convention. Jeff Dunham grew up at this convention. He's been there almost from the very start. And, the guy that started it all, two people that started it all, really, Edgar Bergen, and some people can look them up if they're up if they don't know who
I
he
didn't
is.
know that. Edgar, he's history.
Edgar, he was there from the beginning, and if you look him up, he was the #1 radio show in America in the 30s and 40s, and I like to tell people he's the original Howard Stern because they were always keeping a very close eye at what was said. Mae West got banned from radio from one of the episodes that she did on his radio program. But then there's another guy named Jimmy Nelson that people remember from the Nestle's Quick commercial, of a certain age. And yes, Nestle's makes the very best chocolate. And a clap of the dog's mouth.
Wow.
Jimmy was the guy that we all learned from. Jeff and I learned from Jimmy's 33 1/3 record album. Jimmy came for many years. We lost him a few years ago. He was there year after year. So the reason why we're doing this 50th is because all of these people that have come before us and are now gone, we want this thing to go on for another 50 years. We want it to continue because this is a great art and it's a lot of fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, ventriloquism is a terrific variety art, but I am so impressed that the the Ventriloquist Convention, has been going on 50 years. Yes, that's so exciting. Congratulations. That is something that doesn't happen every day. And obviously, because it's been 50 years, and for you to be the director means that you have your heart and soul in this hobby of yours, this business of yours, this art form of yours called ventriloquism. Now, I know on Wednesday night and Saturday night, there are pretty much big shows, and you have some of the bigger stars. Jeff Dunham host it, but you have different people like Darcy and Willie Tyler, amongst many others, performing. Are those open to the public?
No, they're all part of the full registration. That's
so if you want
years
to really
ago,
dump into ventriloquism, not only experience it, learn about it, but see it, go to this convention and tell the people, remind them of the dates and maybe the cost or how to get tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's July 15th to the 18th, 2026. The town is Erlanger, Kentucky. It's the Greater Cincinnati Airport Holiday Inn. And the secret to this thing, Scott, is we keep it affordable. We're not at the Ritz, we're at the Holiday Inn, but these guys work hard to keep it nice for the folks. Registration before May 1st is only $185 for the first person and $135.
That's
yes, sir.
it? People pay that to see Jeff Dunham alone, let alone 14 or 15 other comics.
I say that to people. We've got a guy on Saturday night on Jeff's show named Max Fulham, who will be, internationally known. But the Edinburgh Festival. Max was probably the most written about act during the Edinburgh Festival in 2025.
Wow.
He's the middle before Willie. He's a brilliant young man. You mentioned Don Ryan before on Friday night. Don is an international guest because he's from Canada. Don's 84 and still headlining on cruise ships all year long. I mean, he's incredible. So, Thursday night, Lynn Trefsker, who's a Disney cruise. If some of your listeners, if they've ever been on a Disney cruise, they may have caught her, in the big showroom. And then Taylor Mason, who's just all over America performing. I mean, we've got them all, man. I'm really proud. Oh, by the way, Saturday night, too, we have a Muppet performer from Sesame Street who's also a ventriloquist. So, here's a full gamut, man.
Al Getler, you have put together quite an event. Ladies and gentlemen, go to VH.
V
is in ventriloquist, convention.com, and you find out all the information, get these affordable tickets. You get 4 days of education and entertainment all about ventriloquism with some of the biggest stars in the industry. Al, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing not only valuable information about your convention, but really interesting and fun background on you as a professional entertainer. Thank you so much.
Scott, it's my pleasure. I'm wondering how big your living room is because I hear that applause, and there has to be hundreds there. So good on you, crowded, man. Oh, I'm telling you. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know you enjoyed listening to Al Getler and myself about ventriloquism and this great convention coming up in July 15th in Cincinnati. And you should get a chance to join us. Go to vhconvention.com and be sure to keep listening to this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Al, thanks for being on the show and letting Floyd join in.
My pleasure, Scott. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.